Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2010 Chevrolet Cobalt, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit. To flat tow your Cobalt down the road, there's going to be 5 main components that you're going to need. First one being the base plate, which gives us a solid connection point to hook up our tow bar to. The tow bar is going to be that second component. It's going to connect to the base plate, run all the way up, and connect to the back of our motorhome. So that's really going to be our main connection point whenever we're towing down the road. The third one is going to be your safety cables. Now these are going to be there as a backup connection point. If a catastrophic disconnect were to happen, these would keep everything attached still. The fourth component will be tow bar wiring. So what this is going to do is transfer the lighting signals from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Cobalt. That way everyone knows your intentions as you're towing it down the road. And the last one being a braking system. So what the braking system is going to do is apply the brakes in the Cobalt whenever you apply the brakes in the motorhome. That way you can come to a more safe and predictable stop and not have to worry about the motorhome doing all the work. So the purpose of the diode wiring kit is to transfer the lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Cobalt. That way others around you will know your intentions, keeping you not only more safe, but also legal. So what I really like about the diode wiring is, one, the fact that it uses diodes, and so those diodes are going to protect your Cobalt's factory wiring if a short or an electrical issue were to occur on the motorhome side. And that's because they do tap right into your factory wiring. So once you get them installed, you're done. It's really easy after that. All you simply have to do is hook up your pigtail cord from the front of your Cobalt to the back of your motorhome, and that's what's going to transfer those lighting signals. And this is the cord that I was talking about. One end will simply just plug into the front of the Cobalt. The other end will just plug into the back of your motorhome 7-way. And what I like too is that the cable is actually coiled. That way, whenever you're pulling straight down the road, it'll stay up high, away from the ground. But whenever you go to turn, it'll stretch out and give you that little bit of extra length that you need, and then return back to that high coiled position. Now there is another type of kit available, which is bulb and socket. To be honest with you, I'm really not too crazy about that style. That's for a couple of different reasons. The first one being that you're going to have to drill a hole into your taillight housing, and that's because you're actually adding an additional bulb. So not only do you have to worry about getting that hole drilled right the first time, that way it'll work, those are also a lot more prone to leaking and giving you issues down the road because you're drilling that hole and giving that moisture and water a chance to get inside. Now as far as the installation goes, it does take a little bit of time, especially when you have to run that bundle of wire from the front of the Cobalt back here to the taillights, but it's relatively straightforward and really not all that bad. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and hook everything up together now. To begin our install, what we're first going to do is route our wiring from the front to the back of our Cobalt. So what I've done is just gave myself a little bit of extra wire here at the front and tied it around the base plate. That way we can maneuver it later in a position once we figure out where we want to mount up our connector. That being said, I just loosely followed it across our tow bar, up through this opening here, kind of behind and underneath our headlight. Comes into the engine compartment here. And what I like to do, if you're doing a braking system that requires you to tap into the diode wiring, as we are on this vehicle, I like to give myself a little bundle of extra wire. That way I have some extra to hook that up down the road. That being said, I just kept following the wiring down along through here and dropped it straight down along the firewall to the underside of our vehicle. Now underneath the car, here's where our diode wiring drops right down. Then I just secured it to these existing factory lines here. Whenever you do this, you want to make sure to avoid any hotter moving parts. But I just kept following it along, zip tying it along the way to secure it. Now once we get to about this point here, what we're going to do is separate the white wire from the rest of the bundle. So kind of trim it at the top there, and then we can just pull it off of the other wires. Now the reason we're doing this is this white wire is simply just going to act as a ground. So we'll ground it here along the frame rail, and then we have a big long extra piece of wire to work with. That way if we need to extend wiring, we can, and we're also going to be able to use this as a jumper wire from the driver's side of our vehicle to the passenger side. So what I'll do is kind of eyeball the length here, cut it, and then on this end that runs to the front of our vehicle, I want to strip back that insulation. I like to twist the wires to ensure that we have a good connection. We're going to grab the included ring terminal, crimp that on to the bare end of the wire. Then I'm going to secure it to our chassis using the included self-tapping screw. Now we can continue to run the rest of our wiring to the back of our vehicle. Again, I just followed these factory lines, keeping it zip tied along the way. And what I did is actually, since the exhaust is relatively close, there's some factory insulation around the lines, and I just tucked our wiring kind of behind it. That way it'll give us some extra protection. Same thing with this area here. I ran it up into this pocket here in our frame rail, just bringing it across and down and out to here. Now we're kind of at a perfect stopping point to where we can give the routing down here a break. We can go up and get our tail lights removed and figure out how we want to route our wiring up into our tail light pockets. To get our taillights removed, you're going to pop your trunk. Then right here we'll have two 7mm screws that we'll go ahead and take out. We're also going to have a couple more fasteners just on the back side or the inside of our Cobalt. So one of the fasteners will be this plastic wing nut. So we'll unscrew that. Then if you grab our carpeting, kind of pull that down, and that'll expose a 10mm nut. So we'll go ahead and take that off, and we should be able to pretty easily just pull our taillight out. With all those fasteners removed, we can just pull straight back on the taillight. Then we'll simply just disconnect it. Down here, this plug, push down on the center tab, pull the two apart, we can set our light to the side, and repeat that same process to get the other one removed. Now what we can do is grab a pull wire. I'm just using a piece of nylon air tubing. However, you can use a coat hanger or something like that. We're going to drop this down into the taillight pocket. That way we can get back underneath the vehicle, connect our wiring to it, and pull our wiring up into the taillight pocket. So I finished running our wiring underneath using some P-clamps to secure it here away from our exhaust. You can find these here at etrailer. I used one more right here, and once we got to that point, what I did was separate the green wire from the yellow and brown because this green wire is going to run over to the passenger side later on. But kind of eyeballing everything, I noticed that it's going to be really close lengthwise to get all of our wiring hooked up. So what I'd done was just use some extra wiring and some heat shrink butt connectors to extend the length of our wiring. That way we know we're going to have more than enough. I recommend you pick some wiring up here at eTrailer and do the same. With that being said, what we're going to do is kind of let our green wire just hang off to the side, get it out of the way. And we're going to take our yellow and brown wire, as well as that extra piece of white wire that we removed. Kind of twist these together. And these are going to run up into the driver's side taillight pocket. So here's our pull wire that we dropped down. What I'll do is tape them to it and then go up on the top side, and we're able to pull up all that wiring. Now back up top here, if we pull up on our pull wire, we'll be able to bring up all of our wiring. Now we can go ahead and get everything tested and start to hook it up. So I went ahead and tested our taillight wiring, and what we found was that the yellow wire on the driver's side, we're going to use this to control our stop and turn signals. And the brown wire, we're going to use that for our taillights. So what we're going to do is cut those in half. Try to give myself a little bit of room to work with each side. We're going to strip back all four ends of the insulation. We're going to take a blue connector from our diodes, slide that over the bare end, and crimp it down. I'm going to repeat that for the 3 remaining ends that we cut. So with our factory wiring cut and crimped, we can now move on to our new diode wiring. Do the same thing with this yellow wire. Strip that back, crimp on a blue terminal, and crimp it down. These 2 wires, what we're going to do is connect them together. So we'll strip back both ends. I'm going to twist them together. Make sure you get them nice and tight. Then we're going to take the larger yellow spade terminal, put it over both of them, and crimp that down as well. Now we can grab our diodes and start to get them hooked up. So we'll grab one diode, and the side that has the single outpost, that's going to get connected to the factory wiring here closest to our connector. Same thing for the other wire. We'll just plug in the corresponding factory wires to the other side. Our yellow wire from our diode wiring is going to control our stop and turn signals. So this will just get connected to the diode that has our factory yellow wiring. So this side's definitely straightforward. More or less, we're just going color for color here. So we'll plug that in. The brown and white wire that we connected together, that's going to control our running lights or our tail lights. So that'll get plugged into the diode with our factory brown wiring. So at this point, we can secure our diodes. On the back of them, there's going to be some sticky tape. Peel that paper off. We'll just stick them together. Now we can grab our tail light, plug that back in, same way, just slips right on. kind of tuck our wiring down and reinstall the taillight the opposite way that we removed it. So now back underneath our Cobalt, we can now route our white wire as well as our green wire over to the passenger side. So here's a path that I took. I just kind of tucked it up behind this plastic and this metal. Once you get it in there, you can kind of push it pretty high up. And I just follow that along. Came out right here. And what I've done, just like the other side, is drop down our pull wire through the taillight pocket, taped our wires to it. Now we can go back up, pull everything out, and get it all hooked up. So back on our passenger side taillight pocket, if we pull up on our fish wire, we'll be able to raise our wires up. Again, I went ahead and tested this wiring. Kind of spread these apart, make it a little easier to see. And what we came up with is the brown wire that's going to control our taillights. And this darker green wire, we're going to use this for our stop and turn signals. So what we're going to do with our factory wiring is just like the other side. We're going to cut that dark green and that brown wire in half, strip them back, and crimp on blue spade terminals. We're also going to do the same thing with our white wire and our green wire. Get those ends stripped back and a blue spade terminal crimped onto each one. Now that we have all of our spade terminals crimped onto the wiring, we can hook up our diodes. Again, the out will go to the factory wiring closest to the connector. The corresponding wires are going to go to the other side. And our diode wiring, green is going to go to the diode with our factory green wire. And the white one is going to get connected to the diode that has the brown wire. Get them connected, and we can secure them again, taking off that backing paper. Now we can plug our taillight back in and get it reinstalled. So now back here at the front, we can get our connector hooked up. So what I did was mounted the bracket here up to the front, and I did have to use an additional bracket. It's a no-drill long bracket to actually connect the included one to. You can find that here at eTrailer if you want to set yours up that way. That being said, run your wiring through the hole in the bracket. I'm going to take the rubber boot, slide that over. We're going to strip back all four ends. Now if we grab our connector, we can back off the 4 set screws that we're going to be using. We'll just take a small Phillips and unscrew them. You don't want to take these all the way out because they're difficult to get back in. Just give you enough room to put the wire in. Now each one is going to be labeled. TM right here, our brown wire is going to go to it. GD will be for ground, and our white wire is going to go to that. LT for left turn, which will be our yellow wire. And RT for right turn, which will be our green wire. So go ahead and push the wire in. And just tighten down that set screw. So I'm going to do that for all of the remaining terminals. So here's what our wiring looks like once we have it hooked up. And what I like to do is take some dielectric grease and really coat all the terminals to help prevent any corrosion. If you need some of this, you can find it here at eTrailer. Once we have it covered. Take the rubber cover, slide it into place, and then we can secure it to our bracket. Now what we can do is hook into a tester box or your motorhome. That way we can check all of our wiring to make sure it's functioning properly. So we'll go ahead and try our taillights, our left turn, our right turn, and our brake lights. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Diode Wiring Kit on our 2010 Chevrolet Cobalt.